Hi, everyone. Welcome to this ShuttleCon. This is the first time we are here at Empathy.co at Gijón, in Gijón. Today we have our dearest Redondo, one of the magic guys from the Universidad of Oviedo. He was selected for some of our employees to be the beginner of this new era. So thank you, everyone. Please clap for Redondo. Now your time.
Because you know that our profile is not precisely popular among top companies, because everyone thinks that we are still with rocks and stone and bones doing stuff, but I refuse to be in the same stereotype as people place me. So I'm going to present to you my not yet born course, which is, well, it is not, I will, of course, I will not name my course like this. This is just a brief introduction about what I am planning to do, because it's not yet finished, or well, it's barely started, but this is one of the projects that I am just developing from the University of Oviedo with one subtle particularity, that is that it is not thought to be taught in no place, no degree, no master, because I don't have any space to teach this yet, okay? Yet. I mean, it is, people say to me, are you just creating courses beyond your possibilities? And the answer is, yeah, maybe. So what is that? This is just the last course of a thing that I am developing. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, oh, sorry. I should have swapped this two slides. I have been tenured 1 year ago. Instead of a programming profile as everybody expected, I tenure myself. I choose the security specialization. So when I turned 40 years old, now I am 44, I started to develop a master plan to rule all cybersecurity in a student. No, it's just to teach a complete thing about cybersecurity in the University of Oviedo. Why? Because everybody told me, okay, you will be assigned to this course, to the degree course, and this one, oh, the laser pointer is not working. Well, okay, this one, okay, and it is very, very small. Very little. I only have 6 credits, 60 hours of teaching, and this just allow me to get to get people started into things, but I need more. So I develop a parallel social part about frauds, cyber frauds, and endpoint protection for citizens and non-technical people, especially, that I am teaching from time to time in some places. For example, the last week, I taught a part of this course to the Principality of Asturias, and private staff that somebody called me. They call me Redondo, el de los fraudes, okay? Fraud Redondo, sounds terrible, I know. But, well, it has some kind of success. Now, thanks to this, I am in the radio. Every Monday I have a 5-minute section in Onda Cero Oviedo talking about frauds. And if some of you are from the master, so I put my ships in the master. So this is what operating system administration was turned into an infrastructure as code course. So I teach about Kubernetes, Docker, LXD containers, Terraform, Ansible, and Vagrant, things that were recommended by a Google high employee from Google. If you teach everything in this list, you will be in a very good position to give your students the knowledge that they wanted to be successful in the future. So I took the list and I teach it all because, okay, why don't? And now I have just finished my defensive security course, and I am not creating my offensive security course, which is the this course and this course are like antonyms. Okay, it's just good people, bad people, but I mean doing bad things for the good. And this is the one that I am going to brief you now. It's a primer of this, which pick up everything that was talked together and puts them into the same container in order to teach people how to develop secure applications, modern secure applications. You see that I even use the modern name from developing secure applications. Instead of DevSecOps, I use platform engineering, which is the newest trend into naming that kind of stuff. So this is taught in the master. This is taught in the degree of computer engineering. This is taught whatever they call me, okay, pieces. And this has no parent. Nobody wants that yet. So when Pablo told me, do you want to talk about something? I can just make the premiere of my non-born child. And I am starting to develop it, but I have enough material to present you just a brief summary of what I am planning to teach maybe the next year. I must say that I have been contacted by higher powers in the university to talk about the viability of placing all this into a single thing. And I don't know if that is going to be something real in the future, but at least I have sparked some interest into higher power people, more powerful than me. Okay, even if I have an army of my own, I am no powerful. Okay, well, a navy, sorry, a navy. So what I am talking about here, or I am trying to put my students here, is in the mind that now we are in the DevOps era. No, we don't usually create applications using the cascade model or some old stuff that some teachers still are trying to teach. Now we develop in cycles, okay? Requirements, design, implementation, test, deploy, maintenance, and start all over again. So what I'm telling to my people is, you have, in the third year of my degree, you have a course that teach about DevOps. So like in an onion, you need to put an external layer on every step that adds to the DevOps stuff, security related stuff, okay? So of course there are a lot of things, and here we are I am only want to point out just the most important things on every phase. Oh, it happens to me constantly at class, okay? At least this is not a scream or something, a moan or something very unpleasant that somebody has. Sometimes people have very noisy ringtones, okay? Or very unpleasant ringtones. I will not get into the specific because I know that I am being recorded and broadcasted to London. So yes, I am crazy, sorry. So, well, one of the things that is very important for me, pushing left, okay? Which is empujar y dejarlo. No, pushing left means the most to the left you can locate and solve a security problem, the less it will cost to you in the future. So locating a security problem in the requirements phase is much, much, much like 100% less expensive than locating the problem into the deployment. I think that most of you are used to locate problems in deployment, okay? Security problems in deployment normally are called pains, headaches, or reasons to be fired. So here is much, much better. But of course, this is just the theory. What we need is to have the tools necessary to be able to identify problems here, the left, as much left as you could, in order to not to have them here. If you caught it here and it's your first round of testing and you have not deployed the application yet, maybe you can cope with it. But I can promise you that if you are some rounds into deployment and you are in the, I don't know, 12th cycle of deployment and you locate a security problem in that moment into the deployment, you will have a big problem, okay? So What I am trying to do is to give my students things to discuss and to locate security stuff. And the first one is, okay, I am going to make the requirements. So there is a requirement to make the requirements, which is make unpleasant questions, okay? Make unpleasant questions. When you are going to locate the requirements, you have to annoy your requirements team. You have to do, okay, yeah, but are we going to manage confidential or sensitive data? Yes, but then you have to do a lot of stuff to make them secure. You have to consult the country law. You have to look what kind of encryption you need to store that. You have to make an unpleasant question. They will not accept it at the beginning, but trust me, if you make the questions here and you develop a solution here, much, much better than developing when you are deploying the application. For example, you have to know where your data has been stored. And you say, okay, that's obvious. No, people say, okay, we are going to store the data into an S3 bucket in Amazon. That's nice. The problem is that it's very easy to misconfigure an S3 bucket in Amazon and expose your data. Last week, we have a major leak from Microsoft. It was in Azure, of course. They have an Azure storage unit that was misconfigured, and a lot of data from actual clients of Microsoft were exposed. So you have to define in the requirements what you have to do. You have to define what parts of the application have to be public and what parts not. For example, every time I put into a web page /admin and I see the admin interface, a kitten is killed, okay? Because I am disgusted from that. I mean, why do I have to look to the admin interface of a public web page? For example, what should I do? It's easy. Connect to your VPN from Empathy, okay? And only from VPN IP addresses, you can access the admin interface, not expose the admin interface in public. I have an anecdote. In certain Asturian university, I am not saying what university it is. Don't pay attention to the reason that there is only one. I have located the administration interface of 2 NASes, okay, with terabytes of backups of data and 1 corporate firewall. Why do I am looking to the administration interface of a corporate firewall? I don't know, but it was there. So if you if you discover that into the deployment phase, you have to go backtracking and to try to change your requirements, change your permissions, inform people and stuff. If you decide that and you fix that into the requirements phase, you will save a lot of time and you will save a lot of money, okay? And of course, locate the potential dangerous operation. I am not talking about just launching nuclear missiles or something like that. A dangerous operation is make a purchase, handling payment data, something that it is leaked into the public, you will get into problems. That's the reason why they are dangerous, okay? So, I am not, of course, I am not going to review everything. I only give you a list of typical security requirements for your own use to inspire you to develop your own, okay? Because the requirements changes with the application. Every application is different. So I give to the people a framework of possible requirements. Today, they can choose and adapt to their own case, okay? This is to begin. This is just a brief introduction about how to consider security requirements in your application. If you want to get serious and you want to do it by the book and present it to your clients and put yourself 2 medals, I am just taking importance in security requirements. My recommendation is to use this, the Application Security Verification Standard, okay, which is the international-wide approved list of security requirements. Every application, I was about to say web application, no, application in general should follow to brag about we take security seriously. We are following the ASVS. The ASVS is cooler than saying the full name. So this is the learning part, and the full part is here. Okay? Just if you want to consider that. There is nothing here that it is not included into that. This is bigger, okay? But I mean, it's very hard for students to begin with the AVS without no preparation. So you see, I have requirements to user accounts, particular features, logs, and stuff. And one of the requirements, which is very polemic nowadays, is how do we authenticate people? Okay, passwords. No, this is old-fashioned. But you are supposed to be old-fashioned. You are a university teacher, mother of God. Yeah, I am not old-fashioned, okay? I am not old-fashioned. I mean, everyone say, okay, quality passwords, unique passwords, long password, complex password. How many of you repeat your password in multiple services? How many? I do. I am the security teacher and I do. Why? Because it is a pain to remember all of them. Usability. I mean, I am a human, not a robot. Well, some students has not that opinion of me, but this is old-fashioned. When you go to the internet and you look for the newest security trends, you will locate a magical word, passwordless. Passwordless is just trendy, passwordless. What is passwordless? As the name indicates, passwordless, no password. So, I mean, it is a future like the blockchain people, okay, a crypto bro, password bros, that say that it will be a day in which I will approach my computer and I will say, hello. And the computer will just, hello, just show my emails and show everything because the computer recognizes me as an individual being. I am the password. I am the key. This future is still a couple of years behind of us. So nowadays they say that every application must get rid of using passwords only, and in the custom model, just try to extend to level 6, which is the typical Google Authenticator stuff. Okay, multiple factor or two-factor authentication. Of course, I have been in companies in which they have implemented the token-based, okay, the typical with a USB special device. Nobody can use the computer unless they plug their individual custom tailored USB device. Every employee has a different one, okay? So they are in the 7, and well, in some films and in some very, very, companies with a very, very strong budget, they are just becoming passwordless with retina scans, digital stuff. They don't work so well. Yes, maybe boys. My wife authenticates to some parts of the company with the boys. Okay, they call her, say, it is me. And yeah, it's quite spectacular. Whenever she made that, because we work at home, and say, say like, okay, you are in the 8th level of the custom model. What? You are doing it good. I mean, you are in the 8th level of the custom model is something that, okay, so that means that we are, yes, you are doing it good. Takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but my only message here is, please, if you still use passwords, you are as obsolete as me, as I am supposed to be. For the young people, I use memes, okay? No, yes, it's because sometimes I have to adapt the message. Okay, so another thing that is abused and exploited more times than you ever think, remember my password, I forgot my password. This functionality is attacked a lot of times because a lot of applications protect the password entry. If you just put your password, wrong password 3 times, 5 times, you are suspended by half an hour, you get a reprimand or whatever, but they forgot to protect the forgotten password functionality. So it is a problem. And some people, some girl at Microsoft, which has much knowledge than me into this kind of field, secure applications, have developed this model, this automaton that reminds you of Vietnam. I mean, automaton, first course. Yeah. Vietnam. But yeah, well, so it's easy to follow. So it's one thing that you have to do. It's a standard model, okay, to try to develop a good forgotten password functionality that is resistant to attacks. As you see, you have an MFA, if possible. Well, if possible, use an MFA. Okay, in the process, because you cannot trust the user any longer. And as you see, this girl has incorporated 3 points in which you have to react to the misbehavior of the users. As I have very young students, I use a memo. Okay, every time you reach this kind of step, that means that the user is doing things against your application. Okay, for example, trying to remember your password more than 10 times means you are trying to cycle the password. You are trying to do bad stuff. Okay. Of course. This is curious. This is the latest recommendation. When you register a password change, never include a link into the message because the users might think you are just phishing your users. Yeah, it's curious, but it's something that happens, okay? So I include this model because it's something pretty standard, and I really wish that most applications follow this. It's very easy to follow. It's requirements, okay? Use HTTP security headers. The content security policy is the long forgotten functionality to protect your applications. I have an old talk about this, the public talk. The content of the talk is way updated because I give that on 2016, I think. So the thing has changed quite a bit, but I include both links to enable you to consult what is content security policy, which is the best protection against cross-site scripting that I know of. And once you implement it, if you implement it into web server, it works for every application you can develop, no matter the language, no matter the framework, no matter anything, okay? Is one security measure to rule them all. Huh? It's the Sauron security. Okay, and oh, yeah, I have a lot of discussions about this. Why do I use HTTPS? It takes a lot of effort to cipher web pages that has no private content. I have 2 objections to that. First, HTTPS encryption now is encoded in hardware. The processors just doesn't have a code. Well, yeah, it takes a nanosecond. So it is not something that you are going to notice. And even if you are creating the new Wikipedia, which no private information is there, no important information is there, just remember that there are tools and people that can change the traffic of Wi-Fi networks on the fly. So maybe you're watching Wikipedia and in the middle of the page, somebody can insert a Bitcoin ad, okay, a provocative Bitcoin ad in the middle. And if you click on it, even if the page is not dangerous and you have no private information there, you can get caught into a fraud. But because somebody put that in the middle of a web page that has no knowledge about that. Because if you don't cipher your traffic, somebody can not, because people say sniff. No, sniff is a problem. But even if sniffing the traffic and getting your information is not a problem, you have to counteract the traffic spoofing. I mean, somebody change stuff and present you fake information. Like if you are reading a newspaper, for example, okay? So be careful. Always use HTTPS. This is a mandatory requirement for me, okay? Design. Well, design is just implementing your requirements, but having a couple of things that I think that are interesting. For example, deny by default. Every time you don't know if a user is able or not to do something, maybe you have to go to the requirements phase to define that, but the default answer is no. Can I? No. Will I? No. Yes, everything is no. Why? Because you have to think if that no is a yes, but the safest route is to say no, okay? Isolate security code from functional code, prevent CSRF attacks. Normally you have prevention in your own frameworks. Every framework that I know of has a model to prevent that kind of cross-site reference attacks, which is, they are annoying, okay? This is dedicated to one company that I cannot mention, okay? Never use production data for testing. Burger King. Okay. And well, there is, here I am missing a link. I will, when I just upload this presentation to the public, and I will pass you the new version, I miss here a link. There is a framework to protect your GitHub repositories. OWASP has a framework, well, a document that shows you what measures you have to take to protect your repositories of code. Because the supply chain attacks that attack your code, and when you distribute your application to all your clients, your code is poisoned or tainted, are becoming a very, very troublesome problem. So they have developed a framework to correctly protect the repositories. So I will include the link here because I forgot. But yes, there are measures to protect your GitHub because, for example, the last year, PHP, which is a language that maybe you know, okay? I think a few users, PHP, was poisoned by an attack that introduced 2 backdoors into his repo. And people went into panic. I mean, imagine that somebody says to you that one of the distribution of PHP has malware. So yeah, you just switch off the computer and say, okay, I'm going to sleep. When are you going to wake up? Never. I mean, PHP, 65% of the web pages are developed in PHP. Imagine if PHP is tainted. 65% of the internet is tainted. I mean, Facebook is developing PHP. I don't care about, okay, yeah, I know. So, well, another thing, threat modeling, the evil brainstorming. Yeah, well, I do like to have a microphone in my hands. So, I mean, brainstorming. Yeah, that's something that most companies don't do, which is in the design phase, you have to think evil, to think like this nice guy, okay? To join the dark side. Okay, I am a very, very, very bad user or a malicious user. What could I do to just break the application? What kind of action can some malicious user do to break the functionality? I am not talking about requirements. I am not talking about ciphering. I am not talking about protecting some web pages. I am talking about, I am going to use this application. Now I have the mockups. Now I have the UI in a piece of paper, but I have the UI. Let's think how I break this application. Yeah, and this is the threat modeling, something that separates noob applications from pro applications. I mean, and you can locate a lot of things using evil brainstorming. Think evil. Don't you have meetings, meetups, and make an evil meetup? Yeah, that's cool. Okay, let's think badly about one application. How could I break this application? There are methodologies for that, okay? And even you have a guide, which is the Maitri attack, that has clues about how you can break an application as a user, okay? For example, if I were to attack the system, how would I? I will look for the admin web page. I will locate certain files. I will try to put a wrong password multiple times to see if I block the user account of the root. That happens. I cannot tell you when, where. Okay. Who do you think who can attack the system? My competition. People from faraway countries. Okay. How can I prepare to an attack? In the case that somebody stole my data, what could I do? How can I respond to that? What could go wrong? How to protect the user? Things like that, okay? I insist there are methodologies that help you to do that, and just make that's one of the things I want to extend into the full course, how to think evil. And as you see, young people, memes, is this a security risk? Okay, because people need to know what is a security risk in the design phase, not in the deployment phase. And when I do that, I will link to our beloved Benjamin course, project management, and talk about risk and stuff like this. And I will not go deeper into that. Okay, let's think that my future course will link to the Benjamin course, which if you are not from Oviedo, you say, what are you talking about? Later on, I will explain to you. And well, this is the management phase, but as you see, we are going technical from the management and join both worlds together. So implementation. Everybody says validate in the server, but nobody says, how do I validate in the server? I have a very nice schema, a standard one, about how to validate any kind of input data into the server. Do I validate in the client? Yes, for usability reasons, not for security reasons. Just that, both places, but only in the server for security. How? Follow the schema. And if you locate something obviously wrong, do not hesitate to inform a SIAM or an alert system you might have running behind in your system. Because react to the potential attacks is good. Not just error and nothing happens. No, error and a log and an alert system in one place saying somebody here is putting the password incorrectly 100 times. Maybe we are facing a brute force attack. Okay? If you want to know what errors you want to face, you have here the list. Okay? If you want to know what kind of measures you can deploy to protect your application, you have here a framework. But I especially recommend to look to the deceive and evict blocks because it's the funniest thing to do and things that the applications usually don't do to react to the errors. Okay, and last but not least, I do recommend you to use application security testing tools, especially this, SCAs, software composition analysis. The application that says you are using an outdated and vulnerable version of jQuery. So please do not deploy your application with outdated and vulnerable version of jQuery because every vulnerability jQuery has, it's automatically yours now. Okay, that have saved plenty of applications of deploying themselves with obvious vulnerabilities. So this is very nice to integrate into your deployment chain and to let them examine your code and tell you if you are missing some key security patch. Assast, which scans your code and locate vulnerabilities or programming errors that might indicate a challenge or a problem. You don't know how to do that? No problem. You can do that very easily with GitHub. Okay, you have automatic SCA and SAST scans following these instructions in GitHub. Everything you have uploaded to GitHub can enjoy these two different tools with no effort for free, and you can have a list of problems magically. Okay, yeah, this is a real project with a real problem. Oh my God, what's that? You have to look about that. Yeah, they didn't know. Okay. Another problem, launches the command line with no validation to the input. I could extract the password file thanks to this error. They didn't know even what is the problem, but now they know that the problem is there. Okay, and this is automatically detected by GitHub, so it's free. Okay, I was about to put the other meme. It's free, but well, it's nice to have. I mean, it's maybe with the dependable SCA and the CodeQL scan SAST, you can locate problems that you missed because you are not robots and you are not perfect. So incorporating this into your toolchain is good. Okay, and even you can even configure secret scans. I don't know if so many of you have left hard-coded passwords, tokens, keys, or something into the code, but this is a very bad security practice. You can get rid of it using a tool that is able to locate that kind of hard-coded private information and to warn you and not to deploy it. What is the recent application that has a problem like this? Do you remember the COVID-19 very useful mobile application? Yeah, that was the last one that I know of. that has a major problem deploying a database password into production, hard-coded. Yeah, there was a, okay. Well, if you get serious into the security, you can experiment with a dynamic application security testing, which is a special tool that while you are browsing to your application as an actual user, it is just testing your input fields and telling you problems. I love this one, the TAP, which is free. And I even recommend it to use to my students. And it's very nice because it allows you to discover problems in your application while you are browsing into it. So if you are making usability testing or just user testing to see how user reacts, you can have TAP running in background and discovering problems as you are using another kind of test. And well, if you are serious, you can explore the interactive application security testing tools. It plugs into your application like an agent and locates problems, or once, yeah, that's my famous diagram of, please do not deploy everything into one single server with everything put together. Try to segmentate your network into, I am not telling you that you need to place 4 segments on one administration server, a segment, but if you separate the front and the back, will be nice, okay? This is just a diagram to show you how MasterCard does stuff, but with fancy icons to make it more, you know, one does not simply deploy an application, okay? You just have to plan about it. For example, hire the Cloudflare services to protect you against denial of service attacks and other things, deploy a WAF and stack like this, okay? Oh, my servers. They say, okay, mister, I have an Ubuntu. Yeah, but do you have a secure Ubuntu? No, I installed Ubuntu and just that. No, you need to invest into how automatically harden your Ubuntu. There are scripts, there are languages out there with programs that when you run it, turns your standard plain Ubuntu into a secure Ubuntu. And now, for example, if you pay or you register for a Ubuntu Pro license, one of the things that the Ubuntu Pro license has is a script that once you launch it, makes your Ubuntu much more secure, following the international guidelines of security, which are the C security, that I use, for example, in my classes. There is a way of turning your operating system into a powerful, hardened operating system, just running a program. So it is automatic, it is fast. Why don't you try it? Automatic and fast. Why don't you try it? Try it, because deploying one operating system secure like this, it's much more convenient than just recently installing one. I give you here, well, for example, the Ubuntu Pro size compliance that I have. This has like a 1 month old. You know, I am obsolete, 1 month old. So unfortunately, it only works for Ubuntu 18 and Ubuntu 20. Ubuntu 22 is not yet ready, but I think that in a couple of months they will have that. So why don't you try it? It's very easy to do. Oh, well, if you want to measure your actual security level, you can try this for Linux and this for Windows. This is from the Spanish government. This is just for a private company, but I like the tool. So that's the reason why I recommend. If you have a Windows domain, don't deploy a Windows domain without a pin castle, because you might discover things that you don't like. And never deploy anything without a web application firewall. I don't care if it is mod security or the Amazon one, but put one, please, because they eat a lot of stuff, cross-site scripting attempts, SQL injection attempts, code exfiltration attempts. I just remember when somebody called me and said, we accidentally placed a backup.zip file into the deployment directory with all the source code and hard-coded passwords. And I say, okay, but I'm just calling you not to tell you that we just screw up. No, it's because somebody located that and when queried that, and the WAF was able to tell that that zip file has code and doesn't allow the request. So the WAF saved us to a major from a major compromise of our entire application. So I only called you to say that I was your student in 2017, and thank you because you saved for that. Okay. You were welcome, I suppose. I am only talking about WAF. Well, but the curious thing is now I know that, for example, this WAF is able to locate source code accidentally put into the production directory, which is very nice. I didn't know that. Okay. You can even plug in an antivirus or stuff like this. I normally use another plugin to the WAF that forbids any requests from malicious websites that are collected by a guy in a daily basis and stuff like this. Okay. And now if you are go pro in security, look to the runtime application self-protection tools, expensive, but top of the line. I give you here a brief introduction, or the insider threat locator, the WEBA. Yeah, the name is not very fortunate in Spanish, but it's the user and entity behavior analytics. If somebody is misbehaving, this tool is able to locate it. For example, imagine that Anna, present here, deploys at 3 o'clock every Monday. But for one reason that nobody knows, Anna decided that that week she doesn't deploy, she deploys on Monday, but also deploys on Wednesday. So Anna does something that doesn't do normally. This tool is able to model the behavior, the normal behavior of everyone in the company. And when somebody deviates from his normal stuff, from his normal behavior, just send an alert. Somebody is doing something that it is not normal. Or I am not used to that person connecting at the 3 o'clock in the night to the VPN. Why is this guy connecting at 3 o'clock in the VPN? Do we have a production incident? No. So there is an alert, you have to investigate. Maybe instead of a production incident, you have a backdoor and an insider threat. So that is the top of the line stuff. Expensive. I cannot locate a free one to make my students experiment with that, but I will look into it. But I want to talk about that, and I think that is all. This is the brief review about my last creation. Do you have any question or want to say? Thank you. Tell me. The fourth diagram. The what? Flag? Oh, yeah, of course I can. Oh my God. Oh, okay. That, the previous one. Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah. Yeah, here, but not when you confirm that the password is changed. Don't include a link to login again. Now here, yes, you need a link, but here, no. It's because there are companies that include a link here, and now you can log in with your new password. Yeah, I mean, it is something that is going to be eradicated, but that is, no, good question. Yeah, don't overuse the links. Thank you. That's good to hear. The RASP, yeah. I have a list of potential. No, it's quite new. You know, I have a list of maybe Contra Security is the one that. Yeah, well, I have a list. I mean, it is not included here, but I will send to Pablo the list of stuff that I have. I never tested one myself because when I look to download the free version, there is no free version. So, and I have no money to test that because well, if I ask for money to the university, they say like the memo, yao me. But yeah, I have a list of tools. Not yet. The threat modeling, I have some methodologies to study. I have made mock-ups with friends about how to do that in an informal way, which is better than not doing that at all. But I am trying to, when I have time to just put time into this, my goal is to choose one of the methodologies and develop something that allows us to make something in classroom that at least get the feeling about that. But, I mean, my intention is to use a methodology because I have to justify why I do things, and just make something informal because it's something that requires experience and well, to fail a couple of times to make it good. Even just for thinking, you are making a progress. Just for thinking about that. No. Unfortunately, I am not still. This is one, I mean, every time I create a new course, requires me to study like a ton of things. And this is the thing that I have. I am not into the IaaS infrastructure as code. I am not in the offensive part. So I have to move to this. So I have no experience. I will not lie to you. I know that this exists. I know the pointers. I have still to go deep into that. Yeah, the other speakers might say, how does this guy end? Please, shut up.
So thank you so much, Redondo. I love the threat modeling part and all the security roadmap that you show us. This is so aspirational about security that every one of us should have in account. And now, I think that we would like to see some girls doing some cool stuff.
Okay, so I think now we can start. Good evening, everyone. Miriam Abalo. I've been working at Empathy as a backend engineer for 2 years now. And today I'm bringing you this presentation about our journey on adopting Kubernetes with my colleagues.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna. And as Miriam, I've been working on Empathy for the last 4.5 years. And well, I'm working developing the search and index products.
Hello, my name is Guillermo, and I'm part of the platform engineering team. And well, we are trying to create an internal developer platform for any other teams in the company. And well, we can start. And first, the next week, we are going to be in the KCT Spain also, speaking about this topic in Spanish. So if you miss something, you can check the Spanish version next week. So first, we would like to introduce how we are working, how we are organized in the company. So we are organized with different developer teams with more than 100 engineers. And we have also a platform engineering team, which I'm part of. We are currently 10 members. And we are providing to these teams, the developer teams, the best experience in the company in creating this incredible platform internally for them. So they could use all the tools that we install and maintain for every developer. And they are creating and also maintaining the services like you can see here, some of them, the index service, the search, tagging, many others. And just and something that we would like to remark, we have more than 800 repositories right now in GitHub. So we, as platform engineers, have to take care of this huge amount of repositories. So first, we would like to also introduce a little bit of what Kubernetes is. So Kubernetes is difficult, okay? But people made it easier for trying to make the declarative version of every resource in Kubernetes using YAML files. In this case, as you can see here, there is a pod YAML, which is going to deploy an Nginx service in Nginx container into Kubernetes and inside the cluster. And for each resource, in this case, this is a pod, but for every other resource like deployment service or many other different resources, you need to write a manifest, a YAML. So you can imagine there are a lot of different resources and files that you need to manage. And also you have several environments. Of course, you may have dev, test, and staging production environments or just one environment. But if you are using more than one, you are going to repeat also this manifest with different environments. And you can organize these manifests in one repo or several repos. Okay, so how can we manage this huge amount of manifests? Well, there are several tools, as for example, Kustomize or Costco or Kustomize or Terraform or Helm or many others. You can use these tools to manage those files. But we are going to talk today about Kustomize and Helm and the migration from Kustomize to Helm. So what's Kustomize? So Kustomize is a declarative way, as we said before, to create those manifests. Is natively built with kubectl in the last few months, I think. So you can just install the kubectl CLI, which allows you to communicate with the API server in the Kubernetes cluster, and with a flag, you can create the customized builds. But it's not following the don't repeat yourself principle, which is very useful if you are going to be huge or you are going to have several clients with many different environments. And now Anna is going to demonstrate you how Kustomize works.
Yeah, thank you, Guille. Well, he already showed some hints about how Kustomize works, but I would like to show you a very simple example of how Kustomize works. Here we have a very simple example with the structure of a base customization. Here we should have a base directory where we can place all of our Kubernetes objects, all of them. And also we have to place a customization YAML where we are going to define which objects are going to be built in the customization. Also, we can have several overlays, as you can see here. We can have one overlay, for example, for environment. And we can place here which patches or which objects are going to be override in this customization. For example, if we place here an ingress, we can make a different host, for example. And in the customization YAML, we can indicate that this ingress is going to be patching the base one. There are different patching strategies, but in this case, we are going to show the strategy merge. Also, we have to point to the base resources. So if we here make customized build, for example, in the overlay dep, you are going to see that the manifest build is the one corresponding to the deployment, in the base, and the ingress that is patched in the overlays with the custom host. So as you said, Kustomize is a very good solution. It's a very good solution for to use in a declarative way. If you have a small, a small deployment or a repository, but once it grows, once it get more and more objects of Kubernetes, for example, service account, secrets, etc. This is going to grow a lot, and you are going to have more and more repeated code in your repos. So now Guy is going to introduce another alternative that is Helm.
Yep. So thank you, Anna. So as Anna said, Kustomize for us didn't scale. So we found a good solution to keep our growth also, which is Helm. So with Helm, it's based on Go templating, and you can simplify the process of creating those declarative manifests, and how you can do that with conditions and loops, for example. And it's very useful, for example, also the way that you can manage dependencies and packaging applications. So you can release a chart, which is some kind of package, Helm chart. So this Helm chart can be ready for others, and you can integrate some dependencies with your Helm chart with, for example, a database. Think about a service that you're developing, which is going to use a database. So you can integrate the Helm chart of a database. Think about a MongoDB or PostgreSQL database inside your service Helm chart. And now Miriam is going to introduce a little bit of Helm and a demo.
Okay, so let's take a look at the Helm files. You can see here that we have a templates folder, which contains 2 templates, one for each type of Kubernetes object. We have only 2 here, but we will have many more. And also we have 2 values files that correspond to the values that the templates will be filled in and corresponding to each different environment, deployment environment. So if I execute it with one hand here like this, you can see the Kubernetes manifest that corresponds to the default values, which is the one that has simply values at its name. But if I specify the specific values file that I want to use, then we will have the manifest corresponding to that environment, which in this case is a production mock. And going back to our presentation, now we have a general idea of how Kustomize and Helm charts work, but we are not here to just look at the theory of how these technologies work. We are here to share our experience in this migration and what impediments we found, what steps we followed, and what benefits we gained from it. So let's start at the beginning. What did our former implementation look like? So it looked a lot like this. We had one YAML file for each Kubernetes object, for each deployment environment, for each service. And each service had a single repository in GitLab that contained all the files that were needed in order to deploy that service in all the different environments that we wanted to deploy that service in. So as you can imagine, this results in a huge amount of YAML files and a lot of duplicity between the different YAML files of the same deployments, the different deployments of the same service, since they were pretty similar. And this problem was even more acute when we have a service that was in a multi-client setup, because in those cases, this whole structure had to be replicated across all the clients in every single one of them. So I haven't done the maths, but here you can see some formulas that may help you picture just how many Helm files, YAML files that was. So why did we want to change it? Well, after this, you may think that this is pretty obvious, but there were more reasons behind it. So I want to talk to you about some of them. The first one of them is improved developer experience. At the time this migration began, the development teams relied a lot on the platform engineering team that Guillermo is part of, as we were not used to Kubernetes or its manifests, and pretty much anything beyond our Jenkins pipelines used to seem like a black box to us. So yeah, we relied a lot on them. I want you to remind that there's just one platform engineering team and there's several more development teams. So this wasn't efficient for anyone involved. Also, single source of truth. As I mentioned, we had one repository for each of the services. So you wanted to keep track of the deployments of several services, you had to actually refer to several repositories, which was inconvenient. Also, well-defined ownership. We have over 800 repositories, and expecting a single team to handle all of them is unreasonable. But at the same time, the development teams that were the actual owners of those services were not used to the technologies and were not capable of managing them. So it was not very clear who was to take that ownership. And at last, versioning. With Helm, you can create a version of your Helm charts and deploy that version in all the environments you want to have it in. But with Kustomize, this is not possible. If you want to replicate the change in one environment to other or all of them, you have to manually go in and reproduce the changes in all of them, which is pretty inconvenient as well. And now Anna is going to talk to you about how we went to tackle this issue.
Yeah, but what was our goal over all this journey? We have several ideas, but as we have this collaborative relationship between the client and us, they have also some suggestions. For example, migration from GitLab to GitHub as a repository hosting. Also, we start using GitHub Actions, and also we migrate from Spinnaker to Harness as deployment platform. And at the same time, we were working, the developers were working on the migration from Kustomize to Helm charts. We were building all these Helm charts for the services, and at the same time, we decided to move from several repositories to one single repository in GitHub. And after that, what it looks like. So that's the picture of today. That's how is our infrastructure today. We have, as I said, one repository in GitHub with all the Helm charts in there, also with the values that made our manifest deploy. So we have also GitHub Actions in order to perform some actions such, for example, Helm dependency updates, or for example, trigger the harness executions in order to deploy our service to the Kubernetes cluster. So basically, that's how we are now. And how was our experience as developers during this journey, during this migration? Well, being honest, it wasn't easy at the beginning because, well, we didn't hear about Helm at all until the day we found the issue in the spring. So we have zero knowledge about it. But, well, the first things that we did was to schedule a meeting with the platform team in order to get more context, more knowledge, and the motivation of this migration. And that indeed, in that meeting, we realized that our problem was the lack of knowledge about Kubernetes. It doesn't matter how well we understand Helm if we don't know which manifest we are going to create. We try to limit ourselves to create the same customized manifest as we were doing before, but we don't like the idea of doing things without knowing what we are doing. So we decided to have another meeting again with the platform team, in this case with Marcelo, that helped us a lot during this process. And yeah, you probably don't believe me because of the faces here, but this day we end up with all things clear. And we have a very better picture of how Kustomize, Kubernetes works and Helm and everything. And finally, we could do the migration on time, so we can get our goal. And the most important thing is that we learn a lot during this process. So now we can solve the most of the problems ourselves without depending so much in the platform team. So to sum it up, all two conclusions that we get from this, from the perspective of developers, the best advice that we can give you is to ask for help. It's okay not to know something about some technologies. You are going to find yourself in this situation many times in your professional career. So don't be afraid of ask for help in another teams or in your own team. And from this perspective of the platform engineering team, train your developers. Spend time with them. Be patient because we know that you have a lot of things to do. But this time you spend transferring your knowledge to them is the time you save in the long term without not having to help them to solve their problems because they can solve them by themselves. So just to finish, I want to thank the people that make that possible. And also I want to thank the designers team that made those awesome presentation. And I want to thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you again soon.
Any question or something? Perfect. Next. Who's next?
Okay, thank you so much, Guille, Anna, Miriam. The first talk of many. And now we have Anna, that I think that is an experienced speaker from Berlin to here.
Okay. So hello, good afternoon. I'm Anna, a backend developer at Rosetta team at Empathy, quite an amazing team, by the way. And today I bring this presentation where we all are going to learn or just refresh a little bit about DSLs. So right now, my job at Rosetta consists on creating search experiences for real clients. And it's a really interesting job because I had to learn a lot from the task I need to develop. And I really enjoy that because I've always liked to learn from practice and from reading a book. So because I like that, that's what we are going to do today. We are going to think like engineers today. We are going to develop a search experience task together. It doesn't matter if you are a technical or not technical person. In fact, I think that it would be funnier if you are a non-technical, if you have a non-technical profile. So, because if you have a technical background, you will probably just remember your first or second year at school, and you will lose a little bit of the magic of learning a new thing today. But it's okay, it will still be funny. So let's imagine that you work with me at Rosetta team, and we receive a Jira ticket from a client called Canela and Rama, a typical Asturian sweet shop. And Canela and Rama wants to have a pretty basic but effective search experience. The client wants to have the name and the description of the product to be searchable. Okay, we can do that. But first of all, because we are engineers and that's what we do, we are going to think before starting to code. So if Canela and Rama wants to have the name and the description of the product to be searchable, let's take a look at the feed of the client. We can see here 2 products of the feed. And the title, the name, yes, it's broken, the red dot. And we can see the title, Marañuelas and Irish Donuts. It's short, it's okay. It doesn't have any extra information like calories or maybe ingredients that can make us have a little bit of noise, and that could be easily a filter. And the description, yeah, it's okay. It's a short description. It has some words so we can do a match. So yeah, price, quantity, everything is right. Yes. There's a trap, but it's not here. So everything is right. Okay, so if it is right, we can start coding, we can start doing our configurations, then the front-end team can go and create this beautiful search bar with the filters and everything. We can do a test, we can write here quesadilla and see that we have here a beautiful quesadilla. Everything is fine, it's working. We can go home early because everything is, oh. This was not a surprise I was expecting. Oh no, a product owner call. So, okay. We did a search experience where we could find products by, by name and description. But so why is product owner calling? What is happening? Everything was fine. We also did a test with quesadilla. Everything was working fine, right? Except that it was not fine. Because what does it mean for a field like a name is searchable? That's the real question we had to ask us while thinking like engineers. Are we understanding the same thing that the client when he wanted to have searchable fields? I'm sure that if I ask you what searchable means, what it means for a field like a name, you will probably just tell me that it means that when we write a word, we do a query. That word appears on the name of the product, so we do a match, and it appears on the result list. And that's correct. That's really similar to the official definition. So what is happening? Well, when I'm a shopper and I enter an e-commerce site, I expect to find my product with my query, even if the word has a grammar mistake, or even if I don't fully write my word, or even if it's a sentence, if I don't write like 1 or 2 words. And that's what we didn't test. Quesadilla was a perfect word. Of course, it was working, but we didn't test everything. And why we didn't understand the same when the client asked us for a searchable name? Because we're using a natural language. So if we have 2 classified languages, we could do this one by natural and formal languages. Natural languages are the languages that we speak, like Spanish, like English, like Asturian. They are not designed by us, even though there are some rules that try to impose an order on them. And they evolve with time and with use. They are also used on general purposes. I could be here talking to you about technical matters, and then we can go and grab a coffee and start talking about my life because I will still be using English. It's the same. So it depends on the context and the person who's talking to you. On the other hand, we have the formal languages. They are designed by us for a specific application, for a specific domain. A domain could be a set of concepts you need to know a client's necessities, purposes, and everything. One example could be mathematics. So you need to know a little bit of mathematics so you can understand an equation. And another example could be music, because it doesn't matter where you are or who are you talking to. If somebody shows you a pentagram with some notes on it, you will always read the same song. It also happens with programming language and even cave paintings, because a language doesn't need to be written to be a language. So returning to our Jira ticket, we have a domain, the empathy search experience, and we have words like searchable or filterable or rankable. So if a Rosetta team, when we talk about search experience, we understand each other most of the time. There's something there in common that we could extract and create our own formal language. And if we have our formal language, we will always understand the same and do the same configuration, the same amount of time consumed, a person with their own hands all the time. Yes, I like memes too. So, programmers are known to also like to automate things. So, not because we are bored or anything, but because in the future we are going to save more time and have less human errors. So it would be really magical if we found a technology that allows us to take my formal language, show it to the computer, and then have all my basic configurations here. So an engineer could take their time to do the customization part and not the basic part. Yeah, it could be really magical, something like that exists. And it does. It's a DSL, a domain-specific language. A domain-specific language is a computer language created for a particular application domain. To say it simple, it's a specific language created for a specialized context to be used for that context. So one example could be, I don't know, HTML language markup, or maybe music with the notes and the pentagrams. So yeah, a DSL is a formal language. That's what we've been talking all the time since the beginning of this presentation. A DSL is a formal language, and we can use it to generate our configurations. And at Rosetta team, we saw this opportunity, and we decided to create our own DSL. We are not the first team to create something like a DSL, like a file where you write something and then you generate something more complex. There are a lot of teams who are using that right now, but we wanted to create our own empathy search experience language, our own ESL. So you can see that ESL was meant to be a DSL to generate all of our configuration, search mapping, search configuration, all of technical stuff, a lot of files. And right now we're using it to create all the basic configuration, and we created for the knowledge of creating a DSL. Because in the future, probably DSL will evolve into another tool. Anyway, I want to show you what ESL can do. So I'm going to show you a quick mini demo. It's just a primitive demo, the first version of ESL, if I can do it. My assistant can come. So this is a really primitive version, really simple. I don't want to make you see a lot of code and get afraid or something. So we have this really simple program. We're going to read our ESL, and then we're going to generate the configurations. That's all. My ESL is not written, but that was part of the plan, because I'm going to show you how the computer is understanding me while writing. This is really complex, but you're going to understand this in the future, and you're going to think that your brain goes bigger. Trust me. So I'm going to do this trick right here. And now you can see a tree. This tree represents what the computer is understanding. So we're going to follow an order. From the start, the definition, field. I'm going to start writing field. Then it's understanding me. The field name. What is the field name? A word. What is a word? A set of letters. What is a letter? Something like from A to C to a letter. So my field is name. It's understanding the name has changed here. What is his type? As type is a text. And then what I want it to be? I want it to be searchable. It's not finding it, but it's okay because I'm a programmer and I can change this. The computer can decide that it doesn't want to help me. That's it. And I can do the same for the description. I can also create here a price, but a price is a float, not a test. I can do maybe a Boolean, cast stock, Boolean, and to finish, quantity, which is an integer. And it's understanding every word, every part of this is knowing that it's a different word, it knows what it is. So I'm going to take this and paste it here and do my magic. And here I have my configuration. You can see that name and description are searchable and they are more complex. And you can see that the rest of the fields are more normal. And here we can see some analyzers. This is a really dummy test. I could really generate whatever I want with this input. So let's return to my presentation. Thank you, assistant. And you can see that the DSL has a lot of benefits, but it is not a silver bullet. Because this presentation, the aim of this presentation is not telling you to always use DSL. It's to show you that there is another option when you have a problem, because that's part of the engineer's job, to have a problem, know all the options, and select the best option for that problem. So that's why we're going to see some pros and cons of using a DSL. There are just 3 of them, of each. First of all, we gain a lot of time, a lot of productivity. You see that I just wrote like 5 lines and I got a whole JSON. It could be a real more complex JSON. The original JSON is more complex. I just did a little JSON. We can know that I didn't need to know a lot of domain or programming skills because I'm just writing some words. So anybody who knows the DSL language can do it. And also it's really easy to translate it, because once the computer is understanding my language, I can do whatever I want with it. I'm a programmer. As long as I can program it, I can do it. So I can personalize it as I need. But it is needed to know how to write in DSL, in every DSL. So in the future, if a DSL evolves, it could be really difficult to understand the language and to have some usable words. So sometimes it is need to have a training to use a DSL. It is also necessary to have domain and programming expertise, not for using it, but for creating it. You have to know a lot about your domain. You have to understand every part of it, because you're going to translate it into programming. And then you need to know how to program it. And there are few people who know both at the same time. And also, sometimes it is difficult to translate into code the domain, because sometimes we have a really abstract concept that we sometimes don't even really understand. And when you have to program something that you don't understand, it's really time consuming and sometimes you get headaches. It's horrible. But anyway, if you want to create your own DSL, here you have some references. Of course, I have to put here the domain-specific language book by Martin Fowler and Rebecca Parsons. And here we can see an internal documentation for empathy. So if you are not from empathy, I'm sorry, you can read this. But if you are from empathy, you can see this documentation by Rosetta team, where we talk about DSL, about the experience of creating it. And it's a really interesting logbook. And you can also go to it and start playing with DSL if you want. And of course, I have to recommend you my own entry on the Empathy Engineering blog. Because if you want to do a test and you need some data to do that, you have here some pretty nice APIs for such experience that you can use. So now you have the power of creating your own language. Use it wisely.
Thank you so much. You rock it. And now, Pablo, time to close this first session about the ShuttleCon at Empathy.
Hello. Oh, I've never had a mic on my hand. So, oh, I didn't hit on percent. Let me check. Okay, so yeah, I'm Pablo. You know, I've been working as a software engineer here at Empathy for the last 2 years now. I've worked in, you know, many projects. I've worked in a few teams now. Right now, I'm working on the search product for a big client, but today I'm going to talk to you about another product that I've worked during the last year. So before starting, I would like to give you a bit of a context. I would like to draw a picture in your minds. So let me first start by asking you, have you bought anything from an online store in the last few weeks? Because I'm sure that you did, I did. So let's you know, tell a little story that I'm sure you're familiar with. So let's think that you're searching for a pair of shoes. You want to buy some from your, I don't know, your favorite online store. You buy those shoes, you wait for them, I don't know, for a couple of days, for a couple of weeks maybe, and then they arrive to your home, and the delivery guy, you know, he rings at your door, and you run to the door with the only goal of your life, thinking, I'm going to take that package, you know, I'm going to sign this package, thinking, oh my God, it's finally here, I have my shoes. So you have finally your package. You have finally it in your hands, and you're thinking, maybe the meeting can wait, because let's be honest, this all happens when we are in a meeting, always. So you think, oh my God, I'm breaking the cupboard here. You think, yeah, it can wait. I'm going to take the shoes out of the box and I'm going to try them out. But the problem here, and I'm sure you're seeing where I'm going with this, they don't fit. Maybe because they are too big, maybe because they are too small. But the thing is that they are not made for you, and you have to give them back. Maybe you have this moment of crisis, you know, when you try to make them fit with this giant IKEA shoehorn that we all have in our house. But the result here is that you cannot keep them, and you have to give them back. So you take contact with the customer support of the online store, you know, maybe from your phone, maybe from a chat. It's usually funnier when you do it from your phone, and they answer with this robot voice. But you identify yourself, you say your order number, and then they tell you to wait some minutes until they retrieve all the information from the purchase while you're listening to this kind of music from the elevator. But at the end, they tell you that, yes, you can do a refund, you can return your items, and so on. So basically, what we can obtain from this story is mainly two things. The first one is that online shopping is always dangerous when you don't check your shoe size. And the second one is that customer service times are too long, because you spend minutes waiting for them to check your order information and to retrieve your order information from their own system. And of course, we are all humans. We cannot do anything to change the first one of those problems. But as engineers, as Anna said, we can think about something and we can solve this kind of problem. And that's why we created purchase history. So what is purchase history? Basically, this product is a highly efficient search product that allows the users to have this kind of easy way of retrieving their purchase information, their last orders that they did on the store, and they can do that in a way that it creates this kind of relationship and good experience between the user and the ecosystem of the commerce. So in other words, basically purchase history, what it is a system that collects information regarding all the purchases that you do in an online shop, and you can basically query that information. You can see it in a very friendly way, and that's it. So when we thought about purchase history in our team, we were thinking, how can we do this in the best way possible? So we thought about creating two experiences in a single product. And the first one of those experiences is what we call the associate experience. As you can see here in this screen, basically the associate experience is what the customer support of the shop would get and would see. So basically it's this kind of dashboard with all the information regarding the orders that users made on their own shop. They can query the information, filtering by a single user, filtering for some kind of product, filtering for any information that they have in the database. But of course, I said there were two experiences. So the other one, and this is the one that we are going to be focusing on this talk, is basically the customer experience. This is the view that any of you guys and I would obtain in our mobile application. And this is basically the view designed for the final user. This is where you would get your information regarding your only purchase history and the products that you bought, as you can see here. So on this view, a general user can perform a lot of actions, but the main ones are what you can see here. You can search for your past orders, for your purchase history. You can search for products that you bought in the past with these options of add to cart, to allow the user to spend less time trying to buy again a product. And you have these usual filtering and sorting options that I'm sure you're all tired of listening to. But yeah, you have all these options. But I'm sure you're thinking like, Pablo, please stop with the design things. It's beautiful, but how is this all made, below the curtain, below the water? So let's get a bit to the backend side. And let's start with a rough picture of what our architecture is right now. So basically we start on the left-hand side of the screen, and we start with the merchant that is in charge of sending all the information regarding the tickets. The merchant is in charge of putting that information on the queue system. In this case, we use PubSub. And then is where the first of our components gets into matter, where the streaming indexer is in charge of pulling those messages from the queue system, taking that information and putting it straight to the Elasticsearch, which is our persistent database. Then the search API is the component which is in charge of retrieving, querying that information from the Elastic, and this is the only entry point of our system for the customer side, for the associate experience, the customer experience that I said. So now let's focus a bit on one of the components. Of course, when we think about an experience like this one, we think about mainly the search API. I will be talking about that later. But one of the main points and one of the main most powerful points of this whole product is the streaming indexer, which is the component that is, it's basically in charge of pulling the messages, as I said, from the queue system in a batch way, so that when a ticket arrives at the queue, it is instantly pulled and put into the Elasticsearch. Of course, the indexer, as we all know, it is in charge of performing those kind of transformations from the client's ticket format to the final format that we want to get in our Elastic. And just one curious thing is that we discovered that the most optimum way of saving that information into the Elastic was to create one index per month. So we have that in our setup. And now let's get to the API. This API has efficient search capabilities. It's very similar. It's like a little child from the very big and powerful search API that we have in Empathy. But it allows, for many kinds of filtering, sorting over the products, over the purchases. And I'm sure that all the search engineers here are going to know that, but just for the people that doesn't, apart from the matching documents of the query, the search API is also in charge of returning this kind of faceting information and all the data that is related to the front end and all of that. So now let's see a little example of the response that this search API is performing. And as you can see here, this is an example of the general response. On the first level, we will get deeper into that. But on the first level, we have the first thing is that we have the faceting information, as I said. So getting to know more about that, as I said, those are the fields that you can filter on a search. Basically, as you can see here, we have created, status, type, and inside of those fields, we have the values that they can take. So for example, focusing on the type one, we have in-store or delivery. So those are the values that we will see in our front-end application when we want to filter the query or specify it more or something like that. So below we have the documents, and the documents are the purchases we are going to obtain. This is an example of a purchase. So as you can see here, it has the same information. It has, it's like this very similar information to what you get when you go to a physical store and they give you this ticket. So it has, for example, the ID of the purchase. It has the cost total, when it was performed, the type, and the status. And this purchase also contains information regarding the items that were purchased in that order. So yeah, this is an example of an item. This is a backpack, and it has all the information needed for the front end to display what a product is. So it has the title, it has the any field that you can think about, like the URL or the image and so on. So this is an example of what what a purchase is and what is the search API responding. But now let's see a real demo. Let's see this working in real. So this is basically a commercial demo that we did for Adidas. Of course, this is not in production. This is only, as I say, a commercial demo. So we can see here the purchase history of, well, this is actually the account side of my friend Leticia. She has, this demo has all the simulation about the account of Adidas, but we are going to be focusing on the My Orders tab for now. So here you can see all the information regarding the purchases that Leticia did in the last few days. So yeah, you can see here all the information. It has the type that we saw previously. And you can, from here, of course, you can, as I said previously, you can filter your orders on whatever, facet or whatever way that you want. So for example, here we are going to say that I want only to see the in-store purchases, and I want to get the ones that are below $70. And I only get these 3 purchases. So here, of course, you can, amplify this view and get all the products that were in the purchase performed, together with all the information, as I said previously, like the address, the time that it took to process the ticket, the ID and the date, and so on. And now let's focus on the My Products tab. And this is a list of all the products that, in this case, Leticia bought through the time. And for example, we can perform any search here. We can perform any query to get, the bag that Leticia bought time ago, and we can add that to the cart, to avoid any complications, and just in case you're looking for a specific item to buy it again. So this is more or less. Oops. Oh my God. Okay. This is more or less the demo. What is happening? This is more or less the demo that I told you about of purchase history. And now, a normal question that could be in your minds is that, is this just all a concept? And I can tell you that no, we have this in production, not for Adidas, but for another client, a very big company, a multi-million-dollar company. And we have this in production, I think, since summer, something like that. So yeah, I bring you some numbers here to show that this is not just a concept, and that when I say this is a highly efficient search product, I mean it. And this is not only a catchphrase for marketing. So the first of these insights or statistics that we want to see here is that this is the average time, 20 milliseconds is the average time that since we receive a purchase until it is available for search. So that statistic is coming from the streaming indexer purely. Then we have 200 milliseconds average time for a PH search API item response. And there is an important remark here that before using purchase history, Kroger, oh my God, I can, they were, they were having this kind of several minutes, of last time in each search of the response. Then regarding the search API, we receive around 3,000 queries per day right now. I mean, it's not fully on production now. And the last statistic that we have here is that, we have right now around 9 terabytes of purchase history data in production in our Elasticsearch. So that's a huge amount of order information. But this talk is not only to talk about purchase history as what it is right now. It is also to talk about purchase history and what could it be in the future. So for that, we have many more possibilities. These are all, conceptual features and so on. And the first one of these ones is the categories information. Because maybe you think, let's think that you make this kind of giant purchase. You go to the store and you buy a lot of items like from groceries, beauty, maybe something for your children or something like that. And you only want to see when in your purchase history, the groceries ones. So we have this feature that will allow the user to group all of that information and will allow the user to purchase all those groceries items from just one click. And then we have another conceptual feature, which is, we call it My Recommendations. And basically what this feature is, that is some insights and some statistics regarding which are your main products, because let's think that purchase history is not only, your ticket history data or something like that. Let's think that the purchase history is a place where we can find information regarding all the items that you buy, all the purchases that you did over an store over the time. So we can extract this kind of information. We can give the user some recommendations regarding their most purchased items or something like that. And this is, very powerful information to produce this kind of interesting features. But of course, we had many more, maybe more interesting than the last ones. The first one, we call it My Insights, is again to get more entertaining statistics and insights based on your purchases. And one that is very interesting for the search engineers here is search boosting, based on my recommendations, because you could take that recommended data and boost those products when you make a search and you make a query to the general empathy search engine. And we have many more solutions that take as source of truth the purchase history aggregated data, which is the main important point here. So as a summary, we talked about purchase history. We talked about a real case that we have working right now, and how important can purchase history be in the future? Because I mean, right now it is very powerful, but the goal here, the goal of this talk is to realize that this kind of tool can be very, very powerful in the future. So that's all. Thanks for listening, and that's it, I think.